In 1863, a phoneticologist named Orson Fowler, based in New York City, received a skull that would spark a series of events in American history. The skull belonged to an Apache man, massive in size, unlike any the anthropologist had ever encountered before. A decade later, Fowler would publish his findings in a book titled The Human Science or Phrenology, where he included a diagram of the skull with a particular focus on its size. He pointed out the skull's most striking feature, a hole that entered through the back and exited near the right eye, the result of a fatal wound. This was the skull of Mangus, one of the greatest and most feared Apache war chiefs to ever walk the earth. 6-9 Mangus, known in his earlier years as Fort, meaning strong or stout, was born around 1790 and stood at an imposing 6 foot tall, an extraordinary height for someone of Apache descent in the 19th century, where the average height was closer to 5'6". In a tribe where strength and leadership were highly valued, Mangus Colorado stood out, not only due to his physical stature but also because of his unmatched bravery, wisdom and ferocity. His name, Mangus Colorado's, meaning red sleeves, was earned through bloodshed, specifically the violence he led in retaliation against the Mexicans, who had betrayed the Apache. 60 and IM before the 1840s. Mangus Colorado's was known by the name Fort and led the Coppermine Apache, a subgroup of the Chiricahua Apache. Fort's rise to power was no typical tribal ascent. Most Apache chiefs rose to prominence in their late 30s or 40s, but Fort demonstrated remarkable leadership and wisdom from an early age. By his 20s, he had already become the chief of his people, guiding them through some of the most tumultuous times in Apache history. Sup 9 In the early 1820s, Mexico gained independence from Spain, and the previously steady relationship between the Mexican government and the Apache began to crumble. Mexico's financial difficulties led to a cutback in rations that the Apache had come to depend on, and in response, the Apache reverted to their traditional ways of raiding to acquire the resources they needed. These raids would devastate the states of Sonora and Chihuahua, where Mexican villages were frequently plundered. Yet the goal of these raids was not to kill, but to gather what the Apache needed. Some historians claim that the Apache would often spare the lives of their victims. Seeing it as a strategic move, they could raid the same villages again later. 69 Mangus Colorado's in the 1850s confirmed this when he told an American party that if we kill off all the Mexicans, who will raise the cattle and horses for us. This statement not only highlights the pragmatism of the Apache in their war efforts, but also their strategic mindset. This wasn't just mindless violence, it was an economic necessity. 69 By the 1830s, Mexico, struggling to control the Apache, resorted to paying mercenaries and offering scalp bounties to deal with the raids. This tactic, however, backfired. The Apache, a people bound by honor and deep cultural values, saw such deceitful tactics as dishonorable, and they escalated their violence. The turning point came with the infamous Johnson Massacre in 1837. John Johnson, an American hired by Mexico, feigned friendship with a group of Apache. He got them drunk, then ambushed them with riflemen, killing around 24, including the Apache chief. Juan Jose Capafort, now a seasoned warrior, was rumored to have been present, but narrowly escaped. 16-9 This betrayal deepened the animosity between the Apache and Mexico. Mangus Colorado's by this time had taken on the name Red Sleeves as a mark of his vengeance. Between the 1830s and 1840s, he led several brutal retaliatory raids, one of which targeted the Santa Rita copper mines. In this raid, Mangus Colorado's and his warriors killed 22 fur trappers and ambushed a wagon train on its way to Santa Fe, killing another 12. This brutal scene paints a picture of what it was like to face the Apache. Silent, strategic and merciless, the Apache did not wear whoop like the Comanche or Lakota. They waited, watched, and when you saw them, it was already too late. 6-9